Hello and welcome to Global Eye. I'm Parikshit Luthra. Rapid developments in the United States with just 4 months to go for the presidential elections. Vice President Kamala Harris will contest against Republican nominee Donald Trump. This comes after US President Joe Biden withdrew from his re-election bid after a disastrous performance in the first debate. Kamala Harris has already made history by becoming the first black woman and the first woman of South Asian origin to be the vice president. Today, she received the endorsement of Barack and Michelle Obama. What are her real chances of defeating Donald Trump? Trump is leading by a slender margin, according to the polls, in what promises to be a tight contest. Joining me now is a very special guest, Terry Szuplat, former speechwriter for Barack Obama for 8 years and also of the author of the upcoming book, Say It Well. Thank you very much, Terry, for joining us on the program. Give us a sense of what Barack Obama and Michelle Obama's endorsement for Kamala Harris means for her as the Democrat nominee for presidential elections.
Sure, thanks for having me on. I think what the endorsement of President Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama means is that at this point, the Democratic Party is completely united behind Vice President Kamala Harris. What you've seen over the last few days is a remarkable coalescing of the Democratic Party around the vice president. A few days ago even, there was a great deal of division within the party about how to move forward. Today, there's unity, there's enthusiasm, remarkable surge in donations and energy. And again, so what this endorsement means is what you're seeing is a very, very united Democratic Party.
Right. Terry, there have been some reports that Barack Obama took some time to endorse Kamala Harris because he was not sure about whether she's going to win. And somewhere he was not happy with this decision. As someone who was Obama's speechwriter for 8 years, do you feel these reports are true?
Actually, not at all. I don't think that's the case at all. I mean, since he's left the presidency, President Barack Obama has tried to play a unifying force in the party, in the Democratic Party. So he doesn't engage in sort of fights within the party. What he does is he serves as a unifying role in the party. And so I think what you were seeing was Kamala Harris said at the very beginning when she announced that she wanted to be the nominee is that she wanted to earn and win the nomination. So you can't earn something if it's simply given to you by the party elders. So I think there was a very deliberate decision by President Obama, Michelle Obama, to stand back and let the party, let Democrats find their nominee. And when they did, they offered their enthusiastic endorsement, and they're going to be out there on the campaign trail doing everything they can, I'm sure, to help her become the next president of the United States. And as you said, a historic president of the United States, the first black woman, the first person of Asian descent, South Asian descent. So this is a remarkable moment. And again, I just keep coming back, the transformation and the enthusiasm on the Democratic side right now has just been remarkable. It's something that you can feel, you can see it, and that's palpable, and that's really important in a campaign. As you know, in India, the enthusiasm of voters and the party means everything.
Right. Terry, when we had seen the fight between President Biden and Donald Trump had a significant lead in the opinion polls over Biden. Now that margin is slender between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. Do you think 4 months is a long time in American politics and Kamala Harris will be able to turn things around by the last 15 days?
Absolutely. Look at, like as you say, look at what's just happened in a matter of days, a matter of less than a week. She's closed the gap. She's surged her support, her donations, the enthusiasm has all surged. And, we haven't even had our convention yet. Democrats haven't had their convention. Typically what happens at a convention is the candidate gets a bump. So she hasn't even had her convention bump yet. So I would imagine that if anything, the lead will grow. And I think one thing to point out is that, Donald Trump has been on the scene now for nearly a decade. And he has had a sort of what we call a ceiling of support. He's never had approval of more than 47% of Americans. So that's what we call a ceiling. So he's sort of at his ceiling already. He's probably not going to increase his support much more than he has, whereas Kamala Harris has a tremendous opportunity to grow. So again, it's about momentum. And right now she's got, and I think, again, given the enthusiasm and the stakes of this election, that momentum is only going to increase.
Right. Terry, we've always been told that it always comes down to some of those 5 and 6 key swing states in the U.S. election. That's what the battle is about. If we were to ask you about key issues that could move independent voters, young voters, new voters in this election, what could those be? If there were 3 contentious issues which you had to name, which could be a deciding factor, what would those be?
Well, I think that one of the top ones is abortion and reproductive freedom, the right of women to control their own bodies. This is an issue that transcends age and demographics and parts of the country. This is a huge issue, especially for young women. And this is an area where Kamala Harris has tremendous strength among young people. Already we're seeing support for the ticket surge among young people and people of color. And so I think that she has been a very effective spokesperson. You mentioned the book at the top. One of the things I talk about in the book is that all of us, whether you're in politics or business or a community leader, all of us have to lead with our strongest self. We have to speak from the heart. We have to speak about the things that are most important to us. That's when we're most effective communicators in politics, business, and in life. And Vice President Harris can do that by speaking to reproductive freedom. So I think already you're seeing her lean into that significantly. Other issues, of course, what we call kitchen table issues, the costs of everything have to come down in the United States. She can put forward a strong plan to bring down costs for the American people. I think she'll increase her support. And again, I think ultimately this is going to come down to the kind of country we want to be, a country of freedom or fear, a country where we're a democracy that respects the will of the people, or where someone launches an insurrection against the Capitol because they don't like the results of the election. So I think all these things can really galvanize support among for her.
Right. My final question, Terry, very briefly, if you could sum up for us, how do you think you have Donald Trump on one side, who's seen as a very tough, hard-talking presidential candidate. On the other side, you've got a successful litigator come vice president. How do you think Kamala Harris will take him on in terms of campaign speeches? You know speech writing very well, and it's important in presidential campaigns. How do you think Kamala Harris will take him on?
Well, in fact, she's already started doing it. From her very first speeches, she's been giving a series of speeches across the country. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's exactly what she's doing. She has said that she is positioning herself as the former prosecutor who believes in the rule of law, who's going to prosecute the case against a man who's been convicted of 34 felony counts. And so elections, as you know, are about the future. They're about framing the choice, boiling the choice down. I think if she can successfully make this case over the coming months, that she is a successful prosecutor who believes in the rule of law, strength against a convicted felon, 34-time convicted felon, that's a powerful argument to make. And I think that ultimately could be one of the issues that puts her over the top and makes her a historic election.
Right. Thank you very much, Terry, for joining us on the program, giving us your view on the election campaign and where Kamala Harris really scores over Donald Trump. Let's see what happens in the next 4 months. Thanks once again. Let me